So, hello, welcome to episode 5 of the On The Knuckle podcast. We are here to go to our final point of recap from the last season, the 2025 World Championships in Engadin Sangputt. And that sounded very similar to my commentary intros as well. But I'm Gaz Vestman-Vogan, sitting here in the slowly getting colder because we're into the fall, nearly winter part of the world in Norway. Beggsy, you are transitioning the opposite way than in Australia. How is it going?
It's going good. Like you say, we're on the tail end of our season. It's over. I'm in the little downtime before we have a absolutely hectic November, December, Christmas, January, February.
It's the final part of Zen, just being able to relax and enjoy it before airports, hotels, and the contests get in the way, really.
Yeah, planes.
Heaps. Well, yeah, that's because you live so blooming far away. Of course you get more planes than everyone else. Right, so we're going to talk about the World Championships in this episode. Give us a bit of a feeling on how this one went for you as an overall kind of. We were there for 20 days or so? Was it 2.5 weeks ish? How did it feel, that full stint?
It was one of the good ones, that one actually. It was a big comp, and you got that feeling of a big comp straight away. Like, all the teams were rolling deep. There was coaches, physios. It had a very dry run Olympic test event kind of feel because we hadn't had any Olympic test events, and suddenly, we're half an hour away from Livigno and the course is fire and everyone was just on. So it had that kind of buzz. Then, we had great accommodation, cold plunge, steam rooms, it was very relaxing in between events. We got a lot of riding in, we got a heap of power. So that was good. It's one of those amazing locations. I don't think you could complain. The food was incredible. The riding was incredible. And then we got the riders put on a show, so it was one of the good ones. How did you find it?
Glad you mentioned the spa, because that was the first thing that sprung to mind when I was trying to think of how it was. So great hotel, great food. We were treated very nicely by the organisers. I enjoyed it because my wife came to visit midway through, so we had a little weekend together, which is a big positive kind of personal thing during the season with so much time on the road. So that was ace. But I think, yeah, as a whole, like for us, given that that was our first test event as a full Olympic panel, wasn't the same course or the same location, but it helped us start to kind of gel together as a crew that's going to work a lot more closely together this season, building into Milano 2026. So I think overall positive. No major issues, no major weather, good snowboarding. What's not to like?
Yeah, and it was good team building. Like you say, that was the Olympic panel, so that was essentially one of the first ones we'd all been together and started to sort of work out how everyone paired up and come up with a few techniques that we can hopefully refine a little bit this season.
So let's get straight into the slopestyle side of things. And you kind of just mentioned pairing the judges up, etc., because we're working section by section. We got 10 judges, including yourself. And as the Olympic head judge, how do you go about kind of planning which judges work together in which sections? Kind of what's your thought process breaking that one down? Because that was the same process we had for the World Champs.
Yeah, so with that, we've slowly been working towards it for the season. So, those composition judges we tried to have that consistency throughout the season, and, composition's a really unique sort of one. So that's, I guess, where we started.
You say unique, I say awkward.
Yeah, well, you're on it. You know how it goes. That was you, Ishtok, and Ari, and I think you guys worked well together. So it's one of those ones that's like you can sort of start to work out how you gel, how you see it, how runs are put together, who likes what, and come to a point. And then as far as the other sort of ones went, everyone's kind of got their strengths. So I like to play to that. The rail guys, you obviously want to put them on the rails because that's their passion, and you get two of them that are passionate about it and off they go. And there was we had transition judges in that. It doesn't look like we're going to have transition features in the Olympics, and then jump judges. It works good.
Yeah, it's interesting, like with those rail guys, because the course for World Champs was a 7-section course. Started off with, first section was kind of more, I kind of class it as street rail because it was a bit streety, it was a little bit transfer. There was plenty of options up there. Then we went to section 2, was more of a kicker rail kind of thing. It was very shotgun, opportunities for high rotations out the rails. Then it was into 3 straight jumps for sections 3, 4, 5. 6 was the quarter pipe kind of transition element, which I liked that they put quarter pipes on both sides just to kind of keep it equal for regular and goofy footed riders, and then rail section right at the end as well, which was I kind of class as like a survival rail section. It's like, cool, you've done your 6 tricks, just nail one medium to good trick on the final rails, and it's a money kind of situation. But our rail judges then have to do 3 sections rather than usual 2. So it adds in the workload for the judges. And then for you as the head judge, makes life a little bit difficult because it goes into that 7 sections element, which we talked about in episode 3 with the slopestyle side of things. So it is interesting how the course will influence how you put the judging panels together and the whole mathematical element for the scores. Fortunately, going into Milano, we're back to 6 sections, 3 rails, 3 jumps, nice and easy, bog standard course in the
Yeah,
politest sense of it.
totally. I mean, this one was good. We had, like you said, it was 2 rails, 4 jumps. So they really got to showcase that variety element where, we got 4 directions, hopefully, and finished with a rail, which I guess at last, 'cause we spoke about how sometimes that can, almost be played down and it's just a safety rail. And it was anything but at this course. Everyone kind of hung it all out there on that last feature. So that was good to see. I think in the girls, nearly all like top 5 or top 6 all spun out of that bottom rail. So no one was just backboarding it to get through.
Yeah, which is sick to see that progression that now, like, that's now the gold standard of got to have good rail tricks too. You can't just survive on the jump tricks. But it's interesting, as you say, the riders, or the fact we have 4 air features, shall we say, the kind of the common consensus from the riders was 4 jump tricks should have 4 different directions to showcase that full variety, which is easier to put into that composition side of things than it is the overall impression sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think it's good. Something we speak about. It's one of the criteria. And yeah, I think the course like that's a must in slopestyle. It really separates people.
Makes our job a little bit easier, that's for sure. All right, so let's get straight into women's slopestyle finals. Was it pretty, if I am not skipping ahead, anything you want to add before we get into the result side of things?
No, I guess up and comers and ones to watch for that. So,
Cool.
there's
All
a
right.
couple of girls in there for me that kind of stood out there. I think Maisie Hill, she sort of had a little run at the end of the season there, and Lily Darwinage and Mila Stalker are all sort of, knocking on the door of finals now, and I think all of them are pretty close in that. Yeah, they're definitely the ones to watch, who weren't on the podium for this one.
Yeah, didn't quite make it all the way through, but definitely, I think Maisie was coming out of Flacao, qualified through for World Cup finals, which was her first final she's been involved with. And then Lily, we've seen pop up a couple of times this season. So there's definitely some good outside names coming into this that if they can put down the right run on the right day in the right kind of field, then they've got a chance.
Totally. And then the other one for that was obviously Mari. She's not an up and comer by any means, but she was a very
She's already
close
come up.
fourth. Yeah, yeah. But she was a very close fourth in that one. One of the best first rails with the 50 boardside Pretz. She has that switchback 10 drunk driver that we saw in so many big air comps throughout the season. She dropped that into slopestyle. She had all 4 directions on the jumps. She was still going hard and Pretz out of the final rail too. So she really did have a run. She was just a little loose on her second rail, I think. Otherwise, she probably would have been well and truly on the podium with that variety and the run like that.
Yeah, because the points, like looking through, were a little bit tight between that kind of bubble spot, as we call it, that onto the podium or off the podium, like just over a point between them. So if she'd cleaned up that second rail, then that would probably have been the difference between fourth and third. Sweet. But who in third place was Ride Uebuchi, Mari's teammate from Japan. Another one who's kind of like, she's been on the scene for quite a while, but I feel like, and this might just be my kind of overall perception, I feel like Ride kind of dipped a little bit the past few years, and then now she's fully on the way back up. Like, she's starting to lock in those huge tricks. Like, she's had the front 14 down. I think only on Instagram. She's got those variety of tricks that's starting to come in. I know she's put down back-to-back 12s in the preseason, if we're talking current day. She's really starting to build up a repertoire of tricks, and similar to Mari, in all those different directions.
Yeah, and I think it was just this week we saw some pretty heavy clips from her on the bag in Japan. So she's definitely got tricks for days. And that one, I think it was the front 10 from memory for me. That was the roast beef front 10 that she kind of held all the way through. And that was one of the more standout tricks of that run.
Yeah, it's beautiful grab selection, which we've gone into in detail in previous episodes as to why that one is my top of the grab range. But yeah, so great from Rita. Ahead of her in second was Kokomo Muraze, who no stranger to that position whatsoever. She's been dominant for ever since she was 13 or so. So quite some years now. On the results here, leading the Japanese field. So Japanese second, third, and fourth, which goes back into that conversation how strong the Japanese team is coming into this kind of important season.
Yeah, I mean, she was second in qualies, second in finals. She really put down a sick run and went for it in the second run with the front 14 on the first jump, but went down. Otherwise, again, she would have been knocking at the door for first. But yeah, that was a solid run.
And that would have been the first time we'd have seen a front triple 14 in the women's field in a slopestyle run. We've seen cab flat 14 from Mia at the last World Championships was the first time 14s appeared in the run. And then this is, I think, probably a good indicator of what to expect when we get through to Milano. It's no longer 5-7-7. It is likely to be 9-10-14 or 12-10-14 as that jump combination.
Yeah, and they were nice big jumps there that sort of allowed for people to showcase it. There was a good landing on that second jump.
Yeah, it's nice and steep and long landings. Like, you can't really overshoot them too well, and you're going to carry that speed all the way through. So, in theory, Livigno for the Milano games will be similar because I know it's quite a steep course. So, touch wood, everything goes to plan. And as we're going into this with tons of optimism, as you can tell. But our world champion from the women's last side, this time round, Zoe Sadowski-Synnott. From New Zealand, similar to Mari, putting down all 4 different directions on the jumps. Huge level of difficulty to go switchback 9, front 10, back 12. So amazing jump combo, locked in on the rails. That front blunt 4 out was juicy on the second rail and just outright winner. Scored a 90.15. And if you've been a nerd and you've gone into section by section, getting a score in the 90s is insanely difficult because of that mathematical combination of it all.
And again, to give props to the judges, I think we finally nailed that after Larks. We spoke about it in Larks and how hard it is usually, I think. But to do it at a 7-feature course, it was a real focus of ours to really make sure that each of those sections used their range so that top place did end up sort of with a score. So it was good to see her in the 90s. She really came in clutch on that one. She went down in the first run on her back 12 and had to sort of hang it all out there and do it in the second run. It was good from her. And unlike the 2 before on the podium, she had all 4 directions. I think it was only her and Mari that really went all 4 directions. The other 2 sort of had a backflip in there. So the fact that she had all 4 and still pushed into the last rail with the back blunt 2, spun out of it like we said before. So, execution was there, difficulty there.
And that 4 directions was a kind of, I was on the composition side of things, so looking at that overall top to bottom run, and that was a key kind of indicator. And yeah, Zoe hit all 4 directions, at least Kokomo and Rhea did. I call it 3.5, like that quarter pipe feature was kind of front side, but at least it was a different access to how they'd done the other front side spins. But that then comes in when you look at the composition scores. So we got 39.55 out of 40.5. Relatively high in the 90s. So good pat on the back to myself, Istok, and Ariana for using our full range on the composition, which is easier said than done, and that's for sure.
Yeah, so she's a current Olympic champion, the current world champion, the current X Games champion, and probably one of the best at do it, proving that she's pretty much the queen of slopestyle at the moment and the one to beat.
She's definitely got the target on her back, I would say. And I think this popped up when we did our ChatGPT predictions, was Zoe is coming in with a strong resume in terms of all those, as you say, all those championship titles.
Yeah, and this one really proving that injury was well behind her, because we sort of spoke about it in the slopestyle episodes. It was a kind of a slow season for her coming in. It was a late start and then finished very strong.
Yeah, finished at the right time. Like, good planning from Tom Wilmot to get the training in the right zone at the right time. All right, so switching through to the men's before we go into the podium kind of things. Any of those standout newer names that you kind of want to just give any reference to?
I've got much men's slope, actually.
Men's, I think, was a very typical, who would you put in like the top? Because we took 16 through to finals, and they're very much, if you'd name 16 athletes, who would they be? I think the only one that's kind of this more on the surprise side of things is Noah Victor, German athlete who's still quite new and upcoming. Just seemed to start to tie things together towards the end of the season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Noah riding really well. this season. Bodes well coming into this season. But other than that, you got Rene, you got Chan, Tiger, Dusty, Ryoma, Ian Mattioli. It's very much a who's who of contest snowboarding in that men's World Championship slopestyle finals. I do have to say, a little bit disappointed for the Norwegians. They got two of the top riders. Both finished in the bottom three, just not able to stick a run together. But I guess first one off the podium is probably, I want to say, a relatively surprise name because he's a bit more of a big air rider given the kind of the results. But Romain Alamand from France, who is coming in last couple of seasons, definitely coming in hot, but finished just off the podium in fourth place. I think just lacking that, or maybe lacking the technical difficulty a little bit compared to some of the other runs that we saw on those top three. I feel like the back 12 first jump was kind of that low point of the run.
Yeah, when you're in a sort of field of 16s and 14s, 18s.
Soon to be 19s, that suddenly that back 12 is seems to be a bit of a sticking point. And I guess, was he kind of missing a bit of a direction? He only had the switch rodeo 7 on quarter pipes. I'm trying to piece that one together in my mind a little bit, going back in the memory, but so we lacking a little bit of difficulty in the run, should we say. Other than that, execution seemed on point. Nothing too stand out in terms of the different axes. That was our kind of key thing in the composition score, was they were all very similar axis tricks, minus the rodeo was the decent separator, as it were. Third place, though, which is was new to the scene last year, but is not new to the podcast. We've spoken about him quite a lot. But Ollie Martin from the USA was on form through the whole World Championships, really.
Yeah, second podium for the season. Clean run. Yeah. 4 at the start was pretty solid, and back blunt under 6 into switchback 16 melon, front up 14, back 18. And the way he does that sort of back 18, he sort of had a really nice indie poke late. There was a sneaky little bit of knee grab in there as he poked, but it was one of those ones, I don't know if it really weighed heavy at the time because the poke was probably what the judges saw. It was definitely a good scoring run, and sort of the double quibbler to back blunt too. But I think the one major thing lacking with him compared to the rest of the podium was that variety and the all 4 directions. He didn't technically have a switch front side. He kind of made up for it on that second rail, but really in the jumps, he could have done it on that last quarter pipe hit and chose not to.
Yeah, and we go back into that kind of 3.5 directions rather than 4, which our first 2 place riders had all 4 directions. And that was a bigger sticking point coming out of qualifications. It was a big conversational point, should we say, within the community, was that in his qualifying run was a lot more of a repeated frontside direction. I obviously went back and kind of switched this into more of the double wildcat rather than I think it was front double 9, I want to say, in was it front double 10 in the qualification?
Yeah, front double, yeah, it was more of a double wildcat, so it wasn't so, because otherwise it was frontside, backside, frontside, frontside, and just really just lacking.
Yeah, and it's one of those kind of things as a composition judge, and I guess as any kind of snowboard judge, it always compares to what everyone else is doing in the field. So if everyone else is doing the same thing and going switch back, front, then you almost get away with it because that's the standard that's been set by the field. But as soon as you've got riders doing switch back, switch front, then you've got all 4 directions. You've got to compare it against that and be ultimately pretty critical of how it is.
Yeah, and he sort of gets lucky with the maths a little bit because the sections are so strong that, that 18 scoring high, and these jumps are really good. So he does get that section score to kind of make up for the variety. So it was good composition to sort of, put it where it needed to be.
Yeah, it kind of comes into the tactics. Like, cool, he could have added a switch frontside in somewhere, but he might have gained like 2 points in composition and lost 4 in the section scores, or vice versa. So it might have been a very conscious decision that he may as well take the highest strict score that he could, and he was pretty close to the highest strict score. And then, sacrifice a little bit of composition for the overall total score. So worked well. He got himself bronze medal at his first World Championships appearance. So fair play to the kid.
Yeah, well done. That's nice.
And then second place in the World Champs was our Olympic gold medalist in the big air, silver in the slopestyle, but Su Yi Ming.
Yeah. No stranger to podiums. Backed up his second in Aspen. His slope runs are solid. They're well pieced together. He's certainly, there's not a lot to say about this one. It was a great run. He had put a lot of his own flavour on some of the tricks. There was good execution. Really, all the criteria was fulfilled. He was just kind of beaten by a better run on the day, really.
Yeah, like we go back to the kind of that conversation about variety, and Suming had all four directions and also four different axes because it was the switch frontside double todio, the switch backside kind of flat spin, the frontside triple, and then the backside double rodeo. So it's like four directions, four axes, ticks the box from the variety side of things. Has that cool chicane tuck knee out of the second rail, so he's kind
Yeah,
of
the
got
cool
one
switch
of his rail
dub with the
tricks
tuck
is
knee.
yeah, and it's opposite. I believe it's opposite grabs because one's tuck knee, one's Japan. So it's like cool,
Yeah.
showcasing different hands, different body positions. So really coming in clutch in terms of that variety. And then his rails, he's got same way rotation in and out, and then he's got the chicane, so off axis. Like it's a very intelligently built run, should we say?
Mm. And then
Performed
a
well
rodeo
and
in
done
there
and
for
been able
some
to steer it.
flavour.
Yeah, and who doesn't like a backside rodeo?
Yeah, they double at that. So like you say, I really like that wording. It's an intelligent run, and it had flavour. So he well and truly deserved to be in second. And like I said, just beaten by a better run on the day.
Yeah,
Leads us
which
into
was
first.
so go on, give us, interesting fact. First place in the men's had the exact same score as first place in the women's, just however the maths worked out. Anyway, side note.
Again,
But yeah,
good judging from you guys to have it in the 90s in section by section. So take
not that we're
take
just
that pat on
blowing
the
our own
back.
trumpet all episode long, but yeah, we'll take that one as a
Yeah.
win.
But so it was Liam Brearley in first. So, fresh off a win at Spring Battle. We spoke earlier. He's a bit unlucky in some of the others. We mentioned his fourth in Larks and fifth at Aspen. Like, this is someone who you almost expect to be on the podium the way his runs are pieced together. The rails are the video section rails that he does at the top of the course there. So, and
Yeah.
usually backs it up with pretty solid jumps.
Yeah, and if you look at the rail sections, first rail it's only cab 1 to 50 to front lip prets 2, so like on paper not the most technically difficult trick. When you take the actual rail into consideration, the length of it, the gap of the transfer suddenly bumps it up a notch. So took a pretty decent score on that. And then the only rider to really hit that, obviously this is hard because we're just looking at me and Beggsy in this format, but that right hand rail on the second section was like a wee whoopty up rail. Everyone else in that section seemed to hit the more staple traditional cannon rail. So Liam picking the harder rail and then going switchback 2, 6 out is like harder rail, harder trick. It's going to be, that's where the money came from, should we say.
Yeah, that was a did that just happen moment. It's like you say, everyone was taking that other sort of speed line, and then he switched back to is the gnarly one. So with it, and then drops a 6 tail out. So it was pretty sick.
Yeah, and then straight into back 16, switchback 14, which is one of those weird tricks we've seen the switchback 16s, but switchback 14 still holds weight even though it's only the 14. It's that kind of switch to switch in that switchback side, really awkward to kind of pull that last part of the rotation round rather than following through to come back out forward. Whilst it's only a 14, it's one of those little mechanical things we do take into account to give it the kind of the correct sort of weight. But coming out of that then goes cab 16 triple, the very Canadian trick, because that was what Max Perot perfected for a long time. And then into the front side 10 on the quarter pipe, which was one of the few to actually go 10 on those quarter pipe transitional hits. So brings in that progression, has the difficulty. If I remember correctly, was pretty decent amplitude.
Kind of off the toes too. So it was a sick one, that 10 truck. Yeah, another money maker for him. The cab 16, the way he held the grab, actually go like I think the switchback 14 was a low scorer from memory, but it was really stock and perfect and held mute the whole way. And then the cab 16, that was just that sort of high mute almost, but it got him on the cool axis and landed bolts and into the front double 10 off the toes. So it was like his jump line was pretty fire actually.
Yeah, you are correct in that mathematically the switchback 14 was the lowest scoring trick in the run. Still came through in low sixes, so wasn't devastating to the score. Showcases how good the rest of the run was to still get up in the 90s. So another 90.15.
Yeah, it's probably an excellent range when you consider that we've got 7 features. So, if he's scoring in even a 6 is probably, they basically put all of his scores in the excellent range. So had it been a 6-run course, they probably would have all been 8s and 9s. So it was up there as far as the numbers go.
Yeah, and quite rightly took away the podium, or took away the win, took away the title. And I believe, and this is possibly hearsay, but I think this might be the result that got him his Olympic spot, if I remember correctly. I think he's one of the few that's kind of confirmed to go to the games, which is cool for him, takes the pressure off this season in terms of those first few events. He can go back into training, just kind of focus on what he wants to, and isn't on the points chase as much as other athletes in the field are.
Yeah, that's got to be comforting to know, looking at the schedule and what's coming up, to be able to sort of pick and choose and compete where you need the competition experience and actually disappear and get some secret tricks.
Yeah, rather than going into doing 3 World Cup big airs, 2 World Cup slope styles in the space of 7 weeks. Like, he can actually rest and come in at his own pace.
Yeah, well, the big one for those guys that aren't qualified for slope is those 2 slopes are both in January, and then there's like a week break with X, and then you're into the Olympics. So some of the guys and girls probably won't know if they're qualified till 15 days before the Olympics starts. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, no, it's kind of nice to be a judge in those sort of situations. All right, so that was our kind of slope World Championships. First event we had at the World Champs, everything went pretty smooth, no complaints, good riding, good weather. We had good riding and good weather as well. So started things off on the right foot, which is a nice change compared to how previous elite campaigns have gone, shall we say.
Totally. And even on that one, like when you say the riding was good, we scored power nil every day. We ended up getting our own little lines that we could go and get. And I think from that one, we finished 3-4 in the three something in the afternoon, and we all jumped on the cable car and went up and did a top to bottom after the slope because it was still good at 3 o'clock. So we rode a lot. Like, we were riding literally before and after the comp every single day. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, and that core ratch is great. 1 gondola up, or 2 gondolas up, and you basically get a 30, 40-minute lap down sort of thing. So nice way to end a day of judging, just to actually get the legs moving, score some pow, have a bit of a cruise. If we could have more events like that, that would be very happy with that one. So yeah, so cool. So no death threats after this slope style, so that's always a positive success. Moving in to our next event, which I believe was actually the big air, was it? Yeah.
Yep.
In terms of the timeline, as it were. So the big air, let's kind of, how was the venue in your eyes? Because it was the old ski jumping hill, was the landing for that was the drop in for the big air. And then, if I remember correctly, they bored in the scaffolding landing, which caused a few issues initially, I want to say, because once you've built the scaffolding in, you don't get the same kind of flexibility as you have with an on-snow jump, where you can change a little bit of the gradient, push the knuckle up, and take in some kind of other factors into account. See, the scaffolding's built, so you're kind of stuck with the scaffolding that you get. Couple of issues in training. They tried to steepen it a tiny bit with the snow, and the snow just slid. So there was some worries about whether this kind of scaffolding landing, obviously snow on top of the scaffolding, but whether it would hold up for 3-run best of 2 qualies, same with finals, same with free ski. So there's a lot of hits going down on this singular landing. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking going into it, but we did manage to pull it off. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the venue for a World Championship big air venue?
Yeah, it's cool. It was kind of like a hybrid, scaffold big air city with the festival and set up for crowds and, food stalls and concerts. And it had that scaffolding, big air feel, yet it was in town, so it was purpose built for that, but it was kind of on the mountain too. Like, again, we could ride from our accommodate, like we could go do a lap to the top of the gondola and ride through the forest and end up at the top of the jump. So
as long as you
that
had
was
a
good.
Swiss judge to show you the way through the forest, because that was not the easiest to navigate sometimes.
To navigate, yeah, and definitely there was a couple of kilometres in that run, so the snow conditions changed drastically from top to bottom, but we got there every day and got to ride there. The weather conditions, as you said, it was quite low, so they really played havoc with the course. The snow was tough. They had to water it down at points to try and keep it. It was, a lot of riders were really battling. I mean, for training, we had beanbags down in the front on the timber there. We had front and center, so our views were good, but it was a battle. Let's just say that.
It was, yeah. I remember Richie Day, one of our contest directors, stood on the top of the knuckle just blasting with a fire hose.
Yeah,
just to kind of,
he was just hooked in trying to hose it down.
Which I'm sure he enjoyed that as a job, but yes.
Yeah, and then that sort of, I guess, led into the women really, because conditions unfortunately took out Zoe. She went down super hard in training. Annika Morgan was also a victim of the conditions, taking a slam. It's a shame to see some of those girls that we wanted to see not even get a start.
Yeah, because as you say, Zoe was firing it down in training, in the couple of days of training beforehand, and made it through qualies, and it was in that warm-up for finals that she had that big big hit. And yeah, same with Annika Morgan. So kind of a smaller field of finals, only having the 6 women through, which is a bit of a shame. But 6 women pulled it out of the bag and put on a pretty decent show, I want to say.
Yeah, we went into finals. Anna went down in 2 of the 3 jumps, so she really just left it open to the Japanese, who dominated. They were pretty much almost a repeat of the slope style.
Yeah, top 4 all locked out by the Japanese. I liked with Anna that she went straight into the switch front 12 triple. Like, rather than starting off with a 9 just to get the safety one down, just went all in straight off the bat. Which I think is,
Yeah,
like,
totally.
given the standard of the women's riding now, you kind of have to. You can't really rely on that safety run anymore, because we look at the top 4 and they all had 10s and 12s. So it's like, actually, cool. You can't start with a 9 if you want that spot on the podium, because the next 6 women are going to bring in 10s, 12s, and we're going into the 14s if we consider where we're at in the current state of the sport.
Yeah, and we've spoken about her and the way she's done that trick throughout the season. It's worked for us. It's good to like. It's a shame she went down, but yeah, I think it was the right tactic had she put it down.
Yeah, and kind of the same for Mia, who was just above her, went cab 14 first hit, couldn't get it down, and then had to resort to plan B and go back 9 cab 12. Whereas if she'd gone and landed the cab 14, would probably have gone back 12 straight out the bat and would have been in a much better strategic position coming into run 2. You kind of just got to put it all on the line nowadays, haven't you, really?
Yeah, and that landing was buck. Like, it was so bumpy and slushy, and it was a real battle. You know, they were all busted. They'd sort of ride for a bit, catch an edge, and ride away. Like, it was as tough as it gets, that one. And it was just, yeah, it's good to see we actually got some landed jumps.
Yeah. So in 4th place, just off the podium, Momo Suzuki with a front 10 melon, back 12 Weddle. And it's kind of a shame, because she has such a nice back 10 where she gets the double grab in, and it's not like a convenient double grab. It's 2 grabs that kind of make the trick a little bit more difficult, going melon to stale, which is so sick to see. But the back 12 does trump it in terms of difficulty, so she kind of has to run with the back 12. But it was a very enjoyable first run, just didn't count towards the scores. But again, 10-12 combo in the women's, and you're not even on the podium, says a lot about how much the sport's progressed in the past 2 years since the previous world champs.
Yeah, fully.
And so she's last of the Japanese, 4th in the world. Mari Fakada in 3rd. Just back 10 Japan, switch back 10, drunk driver. Like, this the same tricks that's got her on the podium at multiple big air World Cups through the season. Yeah. She's on point with those 2.
Perfect tweaks on the back 10 Japan. You know, I think she was maybe second line on that. So it's pretty stock for her, but she does it. There's nothing to complain about there. It's perfect. And then same with the switch back 10 drunk driver. She's maybe a little edgy, but she handled the conditions, which on the night was the one. And she's got those 2 unlocked. She is really consistent when she's got that. It was just not into that sort of next level when we're talking 12s, 14s, or, you know, some slightly bigger tricks.
Yeah, so if we kind of compare that to Momo, we said Momo went front 10, back 12. Mari only, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, did back 10, switch back 10s. Difficulty maybe minorly lower for Mari, but as you say, execution fully paid dividends on that one. So very well-deserved 3rd in such a tight field. 2nd, Rita Iwabuchi. We talked about her getting the bronze in the slopestyle, backs it up with silver here. Back 12 and then front 10, and that really cool. If I remember, it's the kind of the Mark McMorris style Weddle to tail. It's not the Ian Mattioli pass one to the other. It's got 2 kind of solid grabs on that front 10.
It's a mute. It's a mute, then a tail. And I think she had a slight hand touch on that, so it wasn't like she was one of those ones, instead of having, you know, like Mari that has 2 pretty good jumps and 2 good execution. Rara had a sick back 12 and an okay. Like, it was an excellent and a good, shall we say, you know, that little hand touch. Probably she left 5 points on the table there, or 8 points on the table there, that probably would have had her up a bit higher had she not slapped down.
Yeah. You have a fantastic memory with these things. I'm going purely off the result sheet and not my steno.
I didn't steno.
Just makes it even better. I have to steno everything to remember. Then Rira 3rd run did attempt the front 14 with double tail, which would have been, obviously we can't say until we've seen it, but that would have got her into 1st, hands down. No, without hands down, but, you know.
Yeah, that trick, especially with that grab on that trick, would have, put an exclamation point on it.
Yeah, easy 9 clip. Even the front 14 on its own with just melon or tail would have possibly been enough. Would have been close, but with the double tail just kind of adds even more difficulty to a already difficult tricks. Shame she couldn't put it down. It's the sort of trick we've seen her put it down on Instagram on a standard park jump, and maybe that's where that kind of scaffolding landing comes into play. And as you say, conditions not being prime for it. But yeah, but the back 12 was huge. Yeah, into second place. So double medalist from the games. And then world champion in the big air for the women's, Kokomo Muraze, which she was probably, once Zoe got injured, she would probably be in the odds-on favorite, as I said, given her variety and kind of, we've seen her pull 3 MBDs out in 3 different tricks in the previous big airs. But goes cab 12 and back 10. And nice back 10 with the nose grab, super floaty, really well executed, no kind of rush in the rotation round, so carried through a lot of points on that one.
Yeah, that nose grab puts on a pretty cool axis on that back 10 too. It's just a bit unique. It's the sort of way she flips out of it, allows her to hold the grab slightly longer, I think. It's a shame she went down on the back 12 on her last run. Otherwise, that would have,
Yeah.
been up there too. And then the cab 12, it's one of the, it's the same way Anna does it. Kokomo's always good for execution. She makes things look nice, so you can't complain when she does it.
Yeah, she's another one who's perfected that axis, and for her that looks easy, and it's just, yeah, picture perfect execution, still a cab 12, still pretty sick. Highest scoring trick of the day. Almost highest scoring trick, was just beaten by Anna's, looking at the points.
Yeah, okay.
To get into the math side of things. Was it my highest scoring trick? It was my second highest scoring trick going into my individual judge scores. But right, so that's the women's kind of wrapped up. Pretty decent. As you say, Hannah Norman, Hannah Kara, just outside of qualifications, did pretty well. 2 new riders on the scene. But then into the men's.
Yeah, okay. I reckon we start, I'd almost go down to 5th for this one with Maya. You know, if his recent clips are anything to go by, he's going to be one we're talking about a lot more in the next couple of months. So, you know, he's put him on the list of ones to watch this season. If you've seen what he's doing in Australia and SFA, and you know the kid seems to have got it all. He's just dropped a 23 the other day as well, so he really has a lot. And in this one, he went back 18 and front 16. You know, front 16 in those conditions that's wild. It's a pretty crazy trick. And had he not gone down on the front 18, he probably would have been floating around that podium too.
Yeah, because it looks like a big score difference, but that's just because everything else was 18s and 19s. But yeah, that front 16 is awkward kind of takeoff, awkward landing, especially given those conditions. So that'd have been a lower rotational trick that does kind of pay its own way forward. But yeah, if you haven't seen his clips, go onto Instagram, spend an hour just flicking through his last reels, because it seems to be every 2 days just drops a new banger, which is sick. It's been enjoyable to watch from the judges' side of things. But yeah, kind of unlucky on this one. They did go down on that 16. I don't think it was the cleanest 16, if I remember correctly. It was a survival one. And then I guess this is then on to, in 4th place, was one of our probably bigger talking points afterwards, chatting to the lot of the riders, because it was pretty tight at the top. But Aman Alaman, so back-to-back 4th place in the World Champs between a slope and big air. Frontside 18, Bloody Dracula, and then backside 18, tail grab, as is kind of counting tricks. And then went for the front 19, Bloody Dracula, on run 3, which would have been wild, given that it's front 19 with arguably one of the most awkward grabs that you could get. We talked about this last time, or in the slopestyle, the big air episode. We've kind of covered the Bloody Dracula as that risk and reward sort of thing. Really awkward body position to get into. Putting it on an 18 is impressive. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those grabs, if you miss that left hand on it, you're doing a front 18 Tindy, and suddenly your score plummets faster than a British politician. And
I think with this one, looking at that, like it was slightly off. Had he got like a clean Karl Mack Bloody Dracula, that would have been in the 90s and bumped him up a little bit.
Yeah, because in comparison, it was higher scored than Rio McMarta's front 18 double grab. So one of those, like, hands are in the same position, but the arms are going the opposite way around the body. So that's your kind of comparison as to where it might have, like, what we're kind of comparing it to is close to the 19s, but it does just need to be that Karl Mack position, unfortunately, to get the full credit that's due with it.
Yeah, and I was saying that, like, Romain was on one that night. He was riding incredibly. His back 18 tail was like sick as well. And to be honest, I thought he was on the podium until Ollie did one of the most amazing front 18 mutes of the night. You know,
Yeah,
it was
which
he was pretty much there until that happens.
and it shows how close it is. He was off the podium by a point and a half.
Yeah, okay.
If like that front 18 from Ollie wasn't as big or wasn't quite as sick, then that would have instantly switched around, and Roman would have had his podium spot. But yeah, it takes us in third place. Ollie Martin, back 18 Indy, front 18 Weddle, or front 18 Mute, which generation, which part of the year we're in. But two high rotation tricks, kind of, I almost want to say stocker execution. We've seen a lot of athletes kind of try hit that infinity axis, as I heard someone call it the other day. But the way Ollie does on the front 18 was just boosted it a little bit higher for sure.
Yeah, and on his front 18, he has his style arm up there. There's no hint of a knee hook. Like he grabs mute, and it's like a high mute, and it gets him on the infinity or wobble axis. And his back 18s too, he's almost nailed them as a really unique way. Like halfway through, with about 7 to go, he just does this massive indie poke and just really pushes it out, and then just dips the last three. So I think had he not been a little squatty on the landing of that one, he probably left a few points on the table there. But he does have, like, for someone to be able to put flavour on 18s is pretty special. So that's a cool technique to have.
Yeah, it's a weird phrase to have actual flavor on an 18. Given 5 years ago, like, oh my god, we've seen an 18, that's insane. And then now it's just like you've got a stock 18 or you've got a flavorful 18. There's now actually the riders getting that good that they're starting to put that difference in. It's like Ollie for his back 18, it's kind of mimicked the Sui Ming axis when it kind of first came into play a little bit, but then as you say, that last final part of the rotation brings in the Ollie Martin flair rather than just relying on
Yeah,
that standard axis, which is sick. But if you compare that to, so he going into the mathematics and the points, he got an 83 for that. In second place, Tigers for an 18 got an 87. So that's where that landing, you can see the impact that sketchier landing had on the overall score.
fully. And so yeah, Tiger, cab 18, front 18. Spoken about that how many times in the last
Yeah,
little bit? It's
almost every big air
got
last
the two
season.
tricks. Yeah. I mean, and he does them good. His cab 18 was down to the fourth line. He goes massive. He's got good pop. The dude's pretty much goofy these days when you see his clips. Like he doesn't ride regular anymore. So and I think that speaks to the fact that he does have those bigger switch front and back rotations on lock.
Yeah, like amplitude is never something he's short on. Let's put it that way. Like he's always the one that's going the biggest and the furthest into the landing. Sometimes causes him issues in terms of being able to land clean, but you kind of take that into account with the level of amplitude and fair play, for sure.
Yeah, well, that was it on the front 18 on that one. He had the style arm. He went massive. Again, he went down to the fourth line and probably slapped it a little bit, but didn't. I don't think he really got pinged for it, but it was a impact hang because he was down the bottom. But again, that front 18 may have snuck a few more points in and beaten Ollie's one. Who knows if he didn't had that.
Yeah, exactly. And then champion in the men's for World Championship 2025, Ryoma Kamata from Japan. And I think front 18 double tail grab was one of my favorite tricks of the night. Was a little bit looser on the execution, I want to say. Might have let the grab
Yeah,
go
he had a hand
little
touch.
bit early. Hand touch, that was the one I was kind of thinking on looking off the points. The bit that was really cool was his other counting trick, which was third run, was the back 19 melon, which on the second run had taken the heaviest slam of the night outside of women's training. Like that was a full face into the ground, blood everywhere, tape over the nose. Was a big hit before going into third run.
Oh, he got smacked. We didn't think he was gonna we didn't think he was gonna get back up, let alone be going for the podium. With an 81, he was sitting well off the pace there, and then to go and drop a back 19 to the third line and kind of just muscle through the slush. Like I think at one point, I don't know, I feel like he sort of landed and maybe he was going to get caught. From memory, maybe looked like he was going to go over the nose and just kind of muscled through and somehow rode away. And like you said, he went down and got to the bottom and took his medals with the face covered with blood and nose taped. And really, showed what a battle that night was for all the riders. The girls were banged up, the guys were bleeding. It was tough conditions.
Yeah, and the only one to actually put a 19 down on that jump. So we've seen 19s before. We've seen them past 2-3 years. They keep popping up. No one could really put it down. We saw Mons try switchback 19 on that jump. We saw Roman try the front 19 on that jump, but couldn't put it down. So that adds that progression element in. Like on that day in that field for that jump, put the 19 down, which was very credible effort. And then I guess the only other kind of talking point for Big Air, which was nothing to do with the judges, was purely to do with the podium ceremony, but it was a struggle to get the champagne corks out of the champagne or the sparkling wine. I'm glad I wasn't commentating on that because I would not have been able to keep it together. But there's something to do with the air pressure and the corks just would not come out, and Yas had to come help his like the girls on the podium try like lever it out with a snowboard tool. Su Yiming was on hand trying to figure out how to do. And interestingly enough, the next day for free ski, they took the corks out before the podium ceremony to avoid that kind of thing. So was technical difficulties with the champagne.
Yeah, I think it was like I say, it was Su Ming and Yas that helped the girls, and then Ollie he struggled with his. He stood there. Like, I think there's a really good edit made of Ollie trying to piece together and work out his bottle of champagne too. So, yeah, funny way to finish it off.
Yeah, it was entertaining for the right reasons. So that was Big Air. Good way to end the season for sure. We've had multitude of big airs that have been on point all the way through. And then we get to what I reckon was probably one of your highlights of the little trip was the Halfpipe. So last event of the season for us on that elite level. And it teed itself up nicely in terms of qualifications. Qualies was pretty kind of standard, nice weather, things riding well. But oh my days, the weather truly nearly fucked everyone on finals day. And I believe we sat there for the training period, just being like, this is not going to go. The wind looks crap. The fog's in. You can't run a pipe contest in this. And as soon as the all clear came through and the riders dropped in, I was still on the ground. So like, this is going to be a shoddy ass, embarrassing World Champs finals. And I was proved drastically wrong by the athletes. Like, fair play to put down the tricks that we saw in those conditions, because that was insane.
Yeah, it was tough. Like you say, the conditions really came to play after 2 weeks of good weather and riding power and sunny days and perfect comps. The snowfall and winds came. I think we woke up in the morning and we were starting to look at, can we extend the hotel? How are we going to change flights? Like, I was frantically trying to work out a plan B for, could we milk a weather day and stay an extra day and make this thing happen for all of us, and how are judges going to do? So that was part of it.
And I'd have been messed up by that, because my travel day was the last day I could have stayed in the Schengen region thanks to Brexit. So if we'd pushed back one extra day, I would have had issues at Zurich customs again. So thankfully we got through it. But that was in the back of my mind on that morning. There was like, shit. How do I get myself out of this situation?
Yeah, I think Julianne had a birthday party. I had a commitment back in Australia. There was like, everyone sort of had things yet. We were like, okay, how do we do this? We'll change our accommodation, change our flights. And then, we'd sort of started the day like that already in a crazy sort of way, and then get up to the comp and it's delay after delay and snowy and windy. And like you said, we didn't think it was going to go. Every time we couldn't even see the pipe, and they're just like, delayed another half an hour. And then, okay, we're going to go. And then it'd blow in again. We're like, all right, we'll see how this goes. But they really did turn it on and make it one of the crazier comps, actually. It was next level.
Yeah, it really was. And let's get it into the women's side of things. So all your kind of usual big names in there. I think probably the one that was probably not the way she wanted to finish the season was Maddie Mastro, because she'd been clocking up. She took her first World Cup win during the season in Secret Garden and had knocked up a couple of podiums to add into it, and was coming into the World Champs pretty strong. Has that double crippler down on lock at the top of the run, which is sick, even in these kind of sketchy conditions, but just lacked a bit of the execution through the rest of the run, dropped some amplitude, and unfortunately, given the strength of the rest of the field, put it down in 6th place.
Yeah.
Which I know she wouldn't have been happy with, but on the day there were better runs coming through. So I guess just off the podium, Rais Kudo, Japanese rider, relatively new, I think took her first World Cup start in Copper at the start of the season, so not been on the scene too long, puts down a front 10 mid-run, which showcases the level of women's pipe for sure. Starts off air to fakie, goes cab 7, front 9, back 5, front 10. And then I think the weak point was just that little cab 3 at the end. Like, was just kind of lacked a bit of amplitude. Was the only rider to really get 6 hits in compared to the other athletes who were getting 5 hits in, which showcases that difference in amplitude between the various runs. Into third place on the podium, though, Mitsuki Ono, and we go back into this Japanese display of strength because they are second through to 5th, as they were, I believe, in the slopestyle as well. So Mitsuki Ono, not a stranger to the scene. She's been firing all the way through. Starts off big front 9 tail, into the backside 5, the front 7, the cab 9, and then the switchback 5 as well, which is 6. The first in our kind of list as we're going up to tick off all 4 directions in the run, so showcasing that variety. 2 heel side hits. Decent on the front side 9 as well. And it's a very floaty front 9. Just that hand gets the tail grab really nicely and holds that throughout the rotation.
Yeah, the front 9 was good. I think it was probably her grab execution that she got hit on, because the back 5 was a bit of a tail touch, the front 7 was a bit of a touch, and then she kind of, on the cab 9, I think she missed a takeoff and missed a snap and kind of took off early and down the pipe, which then resulted in like a really low trajectory. And while she did get 4 directions, the switchback 5 was good, but yeah, she'd lost it on the easier sort of tricks before that, just with some weaker grabs, but better variety than Sarah, but it lacked execution on the grabs would be my one for that, I think.
As you lead in nicely, Sarah Shimizu into second place. Back 9, huge way to start the run. Progressive, heel side, hard takeoff. Adds in front 7, then into cab 7, then the front 9. And then I'm struggling to read the steno, but BCFI? What in the world is that? Backside.
I think back 5, maybe. I think she went 97795.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's an off-axis back 5 at the end. I think you're right.
Yeah. And then, yeah, with her, she's good grabs, good execution. She's really technically quite perfect in the pipe, the way she rides. So she's one of the ones to watch and well and truly on the up, Sarah. And into the 90s, so good range.
Yeah. Good judging once again. And if you go back to the last episode 4, we go into the halfpipe from last season, you'll see Sarah Shimizu's name cropping up a lot during those kind of World Cup recaps. So kind of says everything. But I guess no surprise, really, in first place, world champion again, to add into, I want to say, 2-time Olympic champion, if I'm remembering my stats correctly, but Chloe Kim. And Chloe smashed it on run 1. Hands down, one of the better pipe runs I've seen. Was already on a victory lap in run 2 and still tried to take it another level up just to showcase that she is that kind of athlete that even with the world championship in the bag, last hit still tries to go MBD with the cab 12, which is just, like full props to her.
Totally. I think, like you said, the first run was good, landed everything pretty clean. I think the back 9 was a little twirly, but she certainly won it by a mile, and then instead of just taking a victory lap, she really went for it, and I think she won the 100. She probably would have got it, and she got that cab 12 too.
I'd have given 99 just to be a bit of a, keep it on the 99.75 kind of score. But yeah, because it would have been cab 10, front 9, back 9, front 10, cab 12, which is the most insane combination we've seen in women's pipe. It is a good kind of sneak peek of what we're likely to see in Milano, I would say.
Yeah, and by that stage, it had really, that whole morning, the weather, everything had been forgotten about. Like, we're just watching Chloe put on a show, and suddenly it's like, wow, when we woke up this morning, we didn't think we were going to see this, and got some of the best pipe runs ever done. Props to everyone who rode that day.
Exactly, yeah. Weather does not matter when the athletes are this good.
Yeah, not for those pipe riders. They are insane.
Yeah. And like that was the first time we'd ever done an elite level event in that pipe as well. Like we've done Larks multiple times. We've done Aspen. We've done Copper. We'd never been to Korvach for a World Cup pipe before. Never mind a World Championship pipe. So nicely built. Not entirely, I can't remember who the shaper was, but very well built. Held up to the conditions. Put on a good show for everyone. So
yeah. And I guess should things happen in Lavinia, we know there's a really nice pipe sitting just across the hill there.
We're only 45-minute drive away from a world-class pipe in case, Damani approach comes into too much effect, which, that's the bet to take for the Olympics. Cool, so that was a women's pipe. And then our final event of World Championships, same kind of story as the women's in terms of sketchy-ass weather and having those moments of, holy crap, I did not expect to see that level of riding. But men's pipe, and
Mm,
it was a show.
wasn't it?
Don't even know where to start with men's pipe. I guess kind of the surprise name that's up there on the list that took advantage on the day, Christoph Lechner, hasn't been too much involved in that top level recently, but managed the conditions beautifully well. Kind of more of a stock run nowadays, but front double 10, cab double 10, front double 12, back 9, front double 14. So had that very, I want to say, staple pipe run we've seen in the men's quite a lot in recent years, lacking that switch backside direction. But on the day, in that weather, you're like, cool. Kind of that was what he had to put down. Survived. A lot of the other athletes had executional errors, crashes, or just sliding out. So at the end of the day, if that's what everyone else is doing and you can do it well, then fair play to you. You get yourself into 4th place at the World Champs.
Yeah, he was a standout, and even Cam Melville in 5th, as a heater, he put one down. His front 14 tail was just, he comes out first thing in the morning and does that. He's got it well and truly locked away, and his alley backside double roadies. He'll travel miles down the pipe with that. So
yeah,
well,
only want to do alley-oop doubles mid-run as well, which is sick.
Yeah, so they were the two for me that were off the podium. I mean, saying that, there was a real big drop between third down to Christoph, I think, from memory. It was, those three, well, I think there was two close, but those three were definitely in a league of their own.
Yeah, so in 3rd place with a 92, and this showcases the level of pipe that we were expecting and the level of pipe that we got. So 3rd place is still in the 90s. Duca, switchback 12, cab, double 14, front double 12, back 9, front double 14. So has the 4 directions, has the 14s in different directions, has the switchback 12, which still remains one of those technically more difficult tricks in comparison to what we see. Yeah, not too much to fault in terms of that run, top to bottom.
I think it was close. It was like split panel for 2nd and 3rd. I think, from memory, and like really split. You talk to anyone, and it could have gone either way. I think a lot of people thought Yuto was maybe in 2nd. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think you had him in 2nd, maybe.
I could have to check the results properly now, aren't
Oh
I?
no, you
Haven't
had
got
him
the
in
end of the month.
3rd, maybe. I think, but for me, no, you had him in 3rd because I agreed with you. I'm like, for me, you like the way Yuto rode. Also, like we're judging what we see on that day, and I think his 2nd hit, the cab 14, was a little nose heavy and edgy. And then his back 9 was just really low with a short grab. So he's got this like run, and it's super high amplitude and really intense riding like Yuto's so good for. And then the back 9 was, really like he's sort of up here and then it goes to sort of really low, and it has a lot of impact when you compare it with the rest of the run. So for me, I think it was probably that one hit that just had him down.
Yeah, you were right. Personally, in my individual ranking, I did have him in 3rd. I was the 89 guy that kept him. I didn't have him in the 90s. I was dropped because that's how it works. But I was that 89 guy this time around. Yeah, I think so that back 9, I think, was the sticking point for me, if I remember correctly. I wish I had my steno because that'd be quite good to go back through.
Yeah, that was it for me from memory. Not that I was scoring, but
You weren't even stenoing. I was also trick calling for TV at the same time, so mentally had a lot going on. But 2nd place, just edging out Yuto by 0.25, Ruka Hirano, which, again, you listen to episode 4, Ruka's name crops up almost every contest because he is definitely one of those ones to watch going into it. He's almost, on paper, kind of guaranteed a podium, and then it just depends how everyone rides on the day, but he's definitely one to look in for. Switchback double 10, Japan, back 9 Weddell, front double 14, cab double 14. And if I remember correctly, the amplitude was huge on the day.
yeah, he almost hit pause on the switchback double 10 too. Like midway through the trick, he grabs Japan and chicken wings it, and actually kind of stopped and hung it out on that one, and then goes into the 2nd flip. Like it was bizarre. It was like like I said, it was almost like he'd hit the pause button. So that was really unique, that back 10, and it's a blind trick, and he's got it so on lock, and then from that straight into the 14, 14, 12 combo. So
Yeah,
I'm well and truly happy with him in 2nd there. So.
yeah, quite rightly deserved. And like we spoke, I mentioned how the switchback double 12 carries weight because not many people do it. The switchback double 10, the way he does it, as you say, with that chicken wing execution, then blind landing in to then go straight onto the back 9 is pretty legit. So
Yeah.
very, very up there with one of those top kind of runs, especially given the conditions. We've seen him do better runs, but you kind of got to play the weather game. And
And
then,
if you look at that too, you've got Yuto and Ruka, go hit for hit, and then you go to the criteria. Yuto for sure with the progression on the switchback 12. It is a trick that nobody's really doing. There's more people doing triples than switchback 12s in this current play. Amplitude, Ruka for sure. Just again, it goes back to that one back nine. We're not judging one trick, but when one trick is so inconsistent, it does drop it. He had the big front 14, but yeah, that messed with his amplitude. So give the amplitude to Ruka. Progression to Yuto. Variety, they're probably even. They both had all four directions. Execution, you just got to give it to Ruka again, I think, because the normal back nine from Yuto. And then difficulty, potentially Yuto with a switchback 12, but I think it's already over by then. We've already got sort of 3-2. So when you're looking at criteria, if you have to split a tie, that's how I'd be splitting it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a judge's clinic in 30 seconds. All right, so that split second and third, as you say, quite close between the two of them. But then our clear winner on the day, which I believe was unanimous in terms of looking at all the results, but world champion Scotty James from Australia. Not a new run in any capacity. It's the switch Mickey Japan, the cab double 10, front double 12, back double 10, and then switch back double 12. Not in his highest scoring run, but one of my I don't even have to call it a highlight, but one of my standout memory moments was his first run, did exactly the same run, takes off for the switchback 12, and the pipe is drastically disappearing. And he manages to somehow squeak that switchback 12 into the very lower, as the coping dips down into the finish, he somehow manages to land and still ride away from it. It was impressive to see.
Yeah, he
I
did
was
it.
mind blown.
On his winning run too, like you said, it was unanimous, and it was, and a part of it was probably that switchback back 12 down the bottom. Like it was a double 12, and both times he was in the air coming around, and you're like, there's no pipe left for him to land on, and he's a big guy, and somehow managed to kind of hold it together through that transition and right away. So yeah, it was well and truly, it was a good run for the conditions. The amplitude was huge to the point that he almost ran out of pipe. The top was kind of cool. It lacked a little bit of difficulty compared to some potentially, but then, the front double 12 style, the way he does that back double 10 too is massive and blind, and he comes around not looking and lands perfectly at the top of the pipe and just straight into the switchback double 12. So, execution was perfect through that run and got him the world championships. I think it's like his fourth one now, so he's starting to stack them up.
It's probably bored of them. That back 10 switchback 12 combo is, whilst you look at it on paper and it's only the double 10, it's not a triple or anything like that, it still holds a lot of weight in terms of difficulty when you talk mechanics of the two tricks. As you say, blind, switchback 12, we've not seen a whole lot of. So the only thing I really wanted to score him down on the day, purely because Danny Ricciardo was part of his entourage for World Champs, and I thought if we scored Scotty low, he'd come to talk to us in the booth afterwards, might bring Danny along, and it would be a chance to, meet a Formula One hero. But obviously, ethics and code of conduct prevented me from doing so, had to give the right points on the day, and we'll save the meeting Danny Rick for a future time.
Yeah, and save meeting anyone. I think it was another good one where we didn't see anyone at the booth afterwards. I'm happy with the way World Champs went. All of us made our commitments around the world the next day. You got out of the Schengen. I got home for what I needed to be home. So it was a good end to one of the better comps in a long time, actually. And if that's a dry run for the Olympics, we'll take it.
Happy days, yeah. I think the whole campaign was sick. There's no controversial moments. We had a couple questions, but there were more questions after the event rather than it being a complaint, which is fine. Always happy to answer questions. I think is a good, as you say, good dry run for us with our Olympic panel. First time fully together. We'll do the same in Aspen and Lark's World Cup as well before the Olympics as a bare minimum for a full panel event. So by the time we get through the next 8 World Cups that are coming in thick and fast very shortly in the space, I think we'll be traveling for the first World Cup in exactly a month today from our recording date. So our panel is going to be pretty dialed in by the time we get through to Milano. We're going in way better prepped than we were for the last Olympics, because the last time was full of COVID, travel restrictions, all sorts of chaos. Touch wood, we're coming in pretty well fired up for this one. So we haven't got any ChatGPT predictions to do today. We've covered off the podium for big air, slope, and pipe at the Olympics. Yeah, so I guess our next episode, now we've done our little trip down memory lane. We've gone through all of last season's World Cups and now the World Championships as well. And now we'll switch from looking in the rearview mirror to looking straight out the windscreen, because we'll probably take a look at this kind of pre-season content that we're seeing coming out on Instagram between the Australia and New Zealand winter, as it were, our pre-season up here in the north. And then we've had the Saas-Fee Stomping Grounds. We'll have Stubai Prime sessions. So lots of new bangers coming through, and we'll take some time to just kind of go through and see what the standard of riding is likely to be at coming into our first World Cup at the end of November in the Secret Garden of the Big Air. But until that one comes around, that's basically it for today. We're now going to get into the swing of things, going into a very exciting, intense, and terrifying season at the same time. So please do subscribe. Join us on Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on Instagram at On The Knuckle. And we're pretty excited to bring you the kind of the behind the scenes and some insights into this intense Olympic snowboarding season. So it's a big thank you from me, Gaz Vestmanvogen, over here in Norway. And also, I'm guessing a big thank you from you, Beggsy, as well. I don't know what I thank on your behalf, but I'm assuming you'd be thankful.
Yeah, pumped to kick it all off. And thank you, guys.
Sweet. So, all right, now it's getting colder. Let's get cracking. We will find you in the next episode. That is ciao for now. Where's the stop button? There we go.